Making an impact across the North. Over £220 million invested in more than 770 companies to date, creating over 2,800 highly skilled jobs, with a third of jobs in the top quartile for income. Working collaboratively with our fund managers and the 10 local enterprise partnerships, we provide microfinance, debt finance and equity finance. We're proud that 75% of investments have been made outside of the 4 major cities, and we're making an impact across the North's key sectors, backing over 770 ambitious management teams.
Growth to date has been significant, and we believe that at some point in the next 2 or 3 years we will reach a trigger point, and at that point we expect the growth to be fairly explosive.
If you're thinking about expansion, go and talk to NPIF now. So you can get good advice, not only on maybe how to expand your business, but also the type of financing that's going to be a good idea.
The biggest impact it's made for me personally and professionally is I've had the extra bit of capital to engage an operations manager, which is giving me the chance to do what I do best, which is go out and sell sales bond and help businesses grow.
The biggest impact the funding will have on the business is that transformation from a development stage company through to a medical device company with products on the market. That's an easy thing to say, but miles apart in terms of the development pathway, and a huge step forward for the business.
We are committed to making an impact through good times and bad, and have been impressed by the rapid response from fund managers and portfolio companies in the fight against COVID-19. By continuing to work collaboratively, we will get through this together, boosting regional prosperity and driving the local economy. See how our £500 million fund can help today.
Good morning and welcome everybody. I'm Ben Ormsby and I am the Yorkshire editor of thebusinessdesk.com, and welcome to the latest webinar in partnership with the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund. I'm going to start by saying that the last 12 months, I think we can all admit, have been difficult for businesses and for everyone, everyone, as we're all sat at home doing these sort of events. But in light of Monday's announcement from the Prime Minister and the feeling that there is now an optimism moving forward, there's a roadmap to getting back to some sort of normal, as well as the fact that I know, and I'm certain that some of the panelists here will share, the fact that businesses have made the necessary measures to be focused on future growth. It feels like it's the right time to start having those optimistic chats. So over the next 45 minutes, we will look at growth and the opportunities that are set to come forward for businesses and the support that is available across the Northern Powerhouse. However, before I ask the panel to introduce themselves, a little bit of housekeeping. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask any questions throughout, and I will put those to the panel. And yes, this session will be recorded and will be available afterwards as well. So to get started, I'm going to ask each of the speakers to introduce themselves and share what you're seeing or where you're seeing opportunities or looking for them as we start a new year in 2021. So if I start with Adam.
Hi there, yeah, so I'm Adam Ward. I'm one of the co-founders of Airtime Rewards. We're a consumer loyalty program working with network operators in the UK and some of the biggest retailers with a completely different take on loyalty. Obviously, with retail being our main business, we've been affected somewhat last year by the pandemic and lockdown, but had a really strong year. I think personally myself, what I'm looking forward to is maybe some of the changes with marketing companies and retailers and how they approach marketing. We've seen a huge demand from retailers wanting to work with us now on a slightly different way of marketing, on more performance-based marketing with budgets being allocated a bit differently. I'm personally looking forward to Manchester getting back to normal with more people on the streets and people returning to the offices as well.
Thank you very much. Sarah, same.
Thanks ever so much. Yeah, morning everybody. My name is Sarah Hex from Mercia Asset Management. We are a fund management company. We manage venture, equity and debt funds. And the biggest fund we have by far is the regional fund of the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, which we manage for Yorkshire, Humber and Tees Valley for the equity side. And on the debt side, we manage for Yorkshire and Humber. I would say definitely 2020, 2021 has been completely different in loads of different ways, but we've seen some great businesses. Many have unfortunately struggled, but we've seen some really good growth as well. So some great positive stories coming out. And we've undertaken some fantastic investments over the last 6 months that have been to new investments, not just to our existing portfolio, albeit we have been using the Future Fund and Seabills as we needed to. I think, very much like Adam, I'm looking forward to Leeds getting back on its feet and getting out there. But I can see that there's been we've got some good businesses that have been operating throughout the time, sort of in the tech businesses, health tech, gaming as well. That seems to have taken off for all the kids at home. And I think there's been some real growth stories, but like I say, some struggles as well.
Thank you very much. Same question to you, Laura.
Yeah, hi, I'm Laura Blakey, Investment Director at the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. I don't know whether I'm looking forward to leaving the house or the kids going back to school more, but they're definitely both up there. I think COVID's really highlighted the significant inequality that exists in our society. So even at a kind of base factual level, mortality rates in deprived areas are higher from the pandemic. So I think the real opportunity that I see is for us to build back better. And I suppose what I mean by that is build back a society that's fairer, more inclusive and greener. And the adoption of digital technology has been at a pace never seen before. So we have a real opportunity to capitalise on that in order to deliver that ambition.
Carl, same question to you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Carl Criscione, Joint Managing Director of Equinox Group. We design and build exhibition stands and events traditionally. Obviously, the last year or so has seen an epic change to the event industry, especially sort of the travel side of things and anything to do with communicating with clients. So it's seen our model change a fair bit. I think what I'm looking forward to is really sort of getting back to a sense of normality in terms of communication between the staff. I know the digital side of things is fantastic, but there's nothing like a full office where you can all communicate. I think it would be nice to sort of have a full car park again. That's a certainty. I see how things are progressing. It's been a fantastic opportunity for us to really look into where the future is going to be and how that's accelerated through digital communication and how our industry has changed. And I think certainly the opportunity in this uncertain time has meant that people are looking for different opportunities. They're looking for different solutions. And I think that's where we're looking, certainly within the region. There's a lot of clients who want to make a change, specifically within the office or how they're communicating with the clients. And that's where we can help, I think. And I think that's what the whole industry of ours is looking at.
And lastly, Ken.
Thanks, Ben. I'm Ken Cooper. I'm Managing Director of Venture Solutions at the British Business Bank. That means that I was and still am responsible for the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund and some of our other regional programs. I mean, I think the way the last year has gone. I think what I've been really impressed with is the way people have actually coped with what was it's an overused word, but it was an unprecedented situation. I think I've been really pleased at the way our fund managers have managed to get out and do deals without the usual ability to meet people to carry out diligence. We've been able to some of our managers have been able to operate the Seabills loan scheme, and that's been really great for supporting businesses that have suffered a bit during lockdown. What I'm looking forward to is a combination of the economy picking up with all that pent-up demand. I think our ability to reach those areas that were sort of harder to get money into has improved because people are now much better at working digitally and at distance. I'm really quite excited about the sort of levelling up agenda that the government has, and I think we can kind of make that work. We've got money in NPIF to invest as companies grow and as they need cash, and that's kind of aside from those support schemes which we realise have been there but are inevitably going to be sort of withdrawn as the economy picks up.
Fantastic. So Laura, I'm going to go back to you because in your opening remark you mentioned the words "building back better," which I think we've all it's becoming the mantra for everyone these days. Obviously, and Ken's mentioned the levelling up agenda. What do you think the building back better means for the North, and what opportunities can you see for for the businesses of Greater Manchester to maybe be bigger contributors to UK PLC?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Everyone uses that mantra, don't they? And I think it does come back to those points that I said around being fairer, more inclusive, greener. And if you take the inclusivity as an example, I think what we have to do and need to do is really lay bare the inequalities that the pandemic has demonstrated, and then develop policy to address those. But building back better into a changing environment, I think it presents huge opportunities for businesses. And just before we started, we were talking about what Manchester looks like at the moment and all the cranes that are up. But the pandemic has really accelerated the shift in the way that we're going to use city centres. So there'll be less retail, and we will use offices differently. There'll be a focus on more experiences in the city centre to draw people in. And all of that is an example of an area that really provides opportunity for business. So as we look to change, there are some real opportunities. And I think we kind of see the recovery in three buckets, really. The first one being to drive real growth in those frontier sectors, so things like health innovation, digital, green, advanced manufacturing, and then to provide the support for the businesses that will bounce back quickly. But then the third and most challenging bucket is to provide the support to the people and the businesses that are going to have to transition and adapt. So there's a real skills push to try and get people to change their skills to what will be needed in the new normal, and supporting those businesses that will need to transition. So, for example, particularly in the retail sector.
No, it's interesting because you said it as well, that it's not been a fair sort of impact, and I know, Adam, when we were talking earlier, you were saying that Airtime has been successful through the pandemic. I guess hearing everyone talking about what is to come in the future rebuilding. What are what are we looking to for the future with Airtime? What's sort of you've grown leaps and bounds already since 2016. What's next?
Well, yeah, like you say, it's been quite an interesting year at Airtime. Obviously, we're a retail-focused business, and you look at that and you think we must surely be one of the biggest businesses that has taken a hit over the last 12 months. But I think it's the complete opposite, really. We had loads of plans last year that we wanted to execute over the period, and we obviously had to park quite a lot of those plans and focus short term, navigating things day by day, week by week. We fortunately didn't have to change much. We're still the same business today as we were last year. Continue to grow, like you say. We ended up 300% up on revenue in the last 12 months from the previous 12 months, and maintained profitability. But I think, in terms of what's to come, certainly executing back on some of those plans that we parked. We want to get outside of the UK this year. We're going to concentrate on more features to help our retail partners target more consumers and understand behaviour, and get back to normal, really, is what we're looking forward to.
So I think then, Carl, you're sort of the opposite end of that spectrum, because again, you would expect your industry to be hard hit, and it really was. I know I spoke to you earlier on in the year, and you sort of said that this time last year, suddenly everything just got grounded, to forgive the plain pun. How did you approach that from a business growth point of view, and looking at the revenues that you had and the plans that you had for the 12 months ahead?
I mean, it was a complete rethink for us, because with events, and particularly our core set of what we do, which is mainly blue chip companies with events across the globe, it was literally like a light switch. It just disappeared. We had an event at Mobile World Congress, which the team were on their way out. They were on the plane, and they just got back on the plane and came home. Same, we had trucks all over the world that literally just had to find their way back. I mean, the approach was, it was not a quick thing. It was certainly a sit down. And I think where we approached this was, we just had a look at our core skill set, and we said, what are we actually good at? And then what industries does this apply to? So initially this was COVID protection screens, manufacturing, COVID safe areas for places, which then snowballed into producing the vaccination centres throughout. But the target really was boiling down what it is we do here, and what is it we do well. And then we had a look at how that applies to the market as it stands today, rather than what we were serving before. And I think it paid dividends in terms of, we realized that actually an office interior or an area that's branded and has a branded journey for it, it applied to interiors just as much as it applied to events. So that skill set came in there. And then we also sort of expanded out to creating that sort of branded journey with our clients, but in the virtual world. So creating virtual hubs for them to meet up and to showcase product and launch product. So that expanded into setting up a broadcast studio here in the office at Leeds. This is why we're actually in this today. We've got a shoot going on as we speak. So it broadened our horizons on not what is it we actually do each day, but what is our core skill and how does that apply to the market as a whole. And that served as well throughout a virtual presence, but also a physical presence with interiors and things like that. So yeah, it was just really looking at our vertical market.
So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's very easy for us to, as we've said, get caught up on the negative picture. But clearly, both Airtime and Equinox have found ways to be successful over the last 12 months. I guess looking for the businesses that are now preparing to come back and might have done similar things to both Carl and Adam, and get their structure in place and their plans in place for what comes next. What are the options and support available to them, Sarah?
So is that
sorry, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the Sarah bit. I was like, who are you talking to? I mean, there's a lot of capital, and Ken touched then on what Northern Powerhouse Fund can give, and I think there's a lot of capital out there ready to invest to help that. And I think, and listening to Carl and Adam, you can hear the resilience of the management team of what they've been through over the last year, and what that means for the future is fantastic. How many businesses to go through what they've had to go through and actually adapt to what the new world is. It means that that not only is the support of capital, but there's actually some great basics of great management teams as well, which makes it a lot easier for investment to happen on a monetary value, even from the likes of ourselves or other funders. But and I think as well there's great support from the LEP as well, and the growth hubs. They're well poised with programs to help support that growth and that future that's coming down the line. You go on our website, we've got a Meet the Funder that we hold every Friday, and there's some fantastic people approaching us who are just asking simple questions at the very outset of their business as to how do I go forward and what can I do? And they're not just startup, they're growth businesses or those that may have adapted over the last 12 months. So I think there's some, the funds itself, there's debt, there's venture, there's that's available to be able to invest into small and scale up businesses, that's there, that's ready, that's poised. I think it's getting everything in place to know what you want to do and find your market to go for. And I think that has changed massively. And we've all said about the digital presence and how we've all had to adapt massively to that. But it's actually accelerated, I think, for everybody, what being able to export or being able to talk to a different country that we couldn't do or transact with previously. So there's a lot of tools and there's a lot open there. I think it's finding out what you want, get your business plan, and pushing forward to those that help that's there. But I think the growth hubs and the LEPs are a great place to start.
Adam, I know Airtime received some investment for MPIF through the Maven Equity Finance Scheme, and obviously you've talked about now the plans to sort of go forward for that internationalization. You know, how important do you see internationalizing the business to being key to wealth creation in the north, I guess, for other businesses as well that might be nervous about that and the support that they get from funders?
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the funding. We took some money from Maven back in 2018, I think it was. I think when we set out and set up Airtime, Josh and I always wanted to become that global business. It's really easy to say, it's very hard to execute, and we've had some really good support from Maven in laying the foundations where we are today with that. I think for us, we want to help Manchester sort of fly the flag really for tech businesses in the north, and I think we've got a very, very good model now that we've been able to prove in the UK. We can work it really quickly and effectively, and we've got a number of stakeholders that play part of our model who see great results working with us. And we absolutely believe we can become the next unicorn, but coming out of Manchester and not London, or being in the US and trying to get into the UK.
That's always a nice one to hear, and I'm sure Laura will be smiling there, thinking, yeah, a nice Manchester unicorn, another Manchester unicorn there. I guess for you, Laura, how do you see us attracting more investment, internationally, and helping grow those Indigenous businesses that exist there to the international ambitions that Adam's laid out?
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with Sarah. There is a lot of capital out there, and there'll be a lot of pent up capital as we come out of this. And the real key for the north, I think, in order to drive the growth, it will be to blend private sector and public sector investment together. So the government are likely to invest behind their key agenda items, so Global Britain, levelling up, as Ken mentioned, and the green economy. And we should be well placed to capitalise on levelling up. But that will need to be supported by private sector investment as well. And I think the key to that is creating the environment, supporting the great businesses that we have, because the more noise there is, and it's something that we've not been particularly good at in the past in the north, is creating the noise about some of the great businesses that we have and what they've achieved. There are other areas that have been much better at that. So we need to bang the drum a bit about businesses like Adams and Carl's that are doing great things in the north, because that narrative will create some of the buzz that will attract the investment.
And Ken, obviously the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund has been fantastic in supporting a range of businesses across sectors and everything else. But as we're moving into this new economic area post-Brexit, and with the roadmap out of COVID, everything feels positive. What is next, and how do you see the role of the fund playing in that next generation of support?
Yeah, I think, Ben, I'd like to also just sort of say, Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund it was set up to be a gap funder. It was set up to provide money where there wasn't money. I think one of the great successes of the fund, one of the reasons the fund has been so successful, is it had scale, and we were able to attract fund managers who, whilst we're a public sector fund, they are very much private sector fund managers. And I think all of them very well placed to help the businesses that they're supporting go on to raise money from funds that are not Northern Powerhouse funds. So keeping that growth going. In terms of Northern Powerhouse, we have recently increased the size of the funding. It's now a £500 million fund. Last year it was a 400 million fund. That was great news, and I think an indicator of the sort of the impact the levelling up agenda has, that we were able to secure that funding to make sure we didn't kind of run out too early, because the fund was almost a victim of its own success. I think we have to promote that success. I absolutely agree with Laura. We not just the success of the companies we're backing, but the success of the fund, because we really want to go bigger next time, and seamlessly go bigger. We will see, I think, some difference in the sort of companies that might come to the fund. There will be companies that have now started to borrow money that never have before. The bounce back loan scheme has supported lots of businesses, but it's also opened up the I think it's helping people understand that actually getting some external capital into your business can actually be a very good thing. You don't always have to sort of go hand to mouth and slow growth. You can, that I think is our message for the future. As you're building back better, make sure you're well funded to do it, and take the advice of experts, including from our fund managers. So I guess, I don't know whether I've answered your question, Ben, but I think more and bigger and better is the shorthand for that.
Well, that's always a welcome statement. I guess one of the questions from Rob, who's watching the webinar, the panel's talked about building back better and highlighted the opinion that obviously COVID-19 accelerated many of the changes that were already taking place, whether that is retail going online or a move to more remote working. Have you seen any other areas that have accelerated, and what are the directions you're seeing of those changes, and how can businesses take advantage of any other shifts that you've noticed over the last 12 months or you think might be coming in the next 12 months? Does anyone want to attempt that?
Would you like me to? Well, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed, I think, and we have a portfolio that goes a lot wider than just NPIF. Science. I think there's a much better understanding of the need for good science, and a much greater willingness, I think, from funders to fund science. And that's sort of one of the things that I also think is a kind of hopeful outcome from the pandemic. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Not all social media anymore. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Definitely. I think even your health and well-being as well has come through, and life sciences. But you can't hide that tech has obviously taken over even stronger than it has been before. But I think it's very specific tech now as well. We're talking health tech. Seems to have had a real growth spurt, and it goes back to the same principle of what you've just said, Ken, that science and health and well-being.
Well, it's interesting you point that out, because I know on our previous webinar with NPIF, we had Abingdon Health on, who are obviously one of those businesses that have done really well in a sense, because they've done the rapid flow tests for COVID. But it feels like there's been a sea change as well in the view of the north, because you've seen businesses like Abingdon and others doing it from the north. It's not just been a Cambridge and Oxford shift. Again, I think that shift was happening pre-COVID. Do you think there is a continued opportunity for the north to raise its profile nationally and internationally? I can see Laura nodding.
Yeah,
we're all nodding. I think going back to Laura's point, definitely, but I'm not quite sure we're that great at speaking out about it and showcasing it. And Abingdon's a great example of what can happen in Yorkshire. And yeah, I think there's more of that, and I'm not quite sure we shout out quite as loud as we could do about it. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you then, Ken.
I know I was going to make exactly the same point, Sarah. I think yes, I think the profile of the North is raising. We do have to do a little bit more actually to say about how the North is capable and working. Because I think the message, and you can possibly tell from my accent that I've not always been a Northerner, and sometimes the message, the feeling in the south of what the north is not what it actually is. It's not that it's this dynamic, progressive place that's growing really strongly. I mean, we talked about cranes in Manchester earlier. I think that's all over the north, and that's kind of what we should be talking about.
I also think that the lines have been blurred quite substantially, given the fact that where the companies are based or where the work gets done is not necessarily where the people are placed. And with the new sort of working regime of maybe working from home and maybe blending that with, sort of one day in the office or one day a month, it's certainly changed so much. It's changed so much in terms of how offices work, how people communicate. And I think that's a good thing for the North and our region in the terms of you can live here, you can work here, but you might not be technically based here in a work sense. And I think it will become blurred a little bit further as that pans out when we all get back to the office. That remains to be seen, does that, but it's quite exciting for the region in terms of maybe where people live and where they work being completely different zones.
Interestingly, another question from one of the viewers, Francis has sort of highlighted that obviously northern universities are have a wonderful number of students, but also lots of skills, and they can be a catalyst for successful futures. But Francis is based in Preston and notes that all the students from UCLan seem to just here in Preston actually going backwards. What role do you think employers, perhaps like yourself, Adam and Carl, have in showing careers in the north and highlighting that?
I guess on our side, I think the realization that employment and gaining skills doesn't have to be from a local source. And I think that really has broken down a lot of boundaries in terms of where you're looking for that skill set. The universities, I mean, obviously, there's some great courses at Leeds Beckett for event courses, and the wealth of talent that's coming from there normally ends up going back down to London and searching within our industry, in the events industry, and searching for employment there. I do think post-pandemic that might change, and everyone's sort of lifestyle work balance has been put into perspective, and it may well harbour a want to stay local and be able to work anywhere in the world still. So I think that's a major advantage for the North in that sense.
So I guess then the follow-up to that would be, how do we keep them here as well? Then that's always the challenge. I'm proud to have done my university degree and everything up north and stayed here, but it always feels a challenge. There is always that pull. Laura, perhaps how do we ensure they do stay here and capitalise now on that opportunity of living here and working anywhere in the world?
Yeah, not to be in danger of repeating myself, but I think there is an element of, we have some really great businesses that are based in the north. Both small entrepreneurial businesses like Adam's, but also we've got GCHQ up here now, and we've got some real opportunities that are exciting for people, and it's cheaper to live up here. But I don't think we do enough to tell people about the opportunities that there are here, and there's a part of coming out of this has got to be a real emphasis on creating places in the north that people want to live, where they blend the kind of innovation zones, the entrepreneurial zones, where the likes of Adam and Carl's businesses can be based, but they're blended with the proper residential offering that people want, and the office space that they want. So I think there's a real place-making play here, alongside, we do need to be better at saying what we have and what's good about the North.
No, that answers it perfectly without repeating yourself. So thank you very much. Another question, perhaps probably for you, Sarah and Ken. What advice would you give for approaching private equity and how to be ready for this, and also what are they looking for?
I suppose that the main advice is to plan, is to get the right sort of idea of what you're wanting to do and be quite clear of where you're going. It sounds a simple thing, but actually it's just knowing what the product or what it is that you're wanting to do. I actually think talking early to the support that's there is really important, because the earlier you get the support that's available, and there's so much free support available to any business starting out looking for investment leads. For example, I know does the investment readiness program, and you've got very similar programs that are there ready to help those gaining investment and take them through the process of getting a pitch together and looking at the products and getting it through to the point where it's ready to go. And I think engaging early with those people, and in turn that goes with the investors as well. So with the likes of the fund managers that Ken's mentioned, like ourselves, is talking early enough to make sure that we've got that sort of early sight, because it doesn't, unfortunately, as much as we'd like it to happen overnight, it doesn't happen overnight. It can take months before the investment's completed and that actual push of a button goes. I think as well, just getting the right people around you that can support you as well as a management team, not just that free advice there, but even back to your own personal circumstances, but the right advisors to talk you through it. The universities are a great source of being able to test product or go down the route, especially if it's science or tech, to go through as well. So there's some really good sort of easy free advice out there that can get you. And if you're asking what does an investor look for, that they're looking for future value, to put it bluntly, and that means that it needs to be, especially if it's venture capital, something that's really gonna change life, or change something, or change a product, or something innovative that will help develop and can really go forward. But the other thing that I think is probably one of the most crucial things is it's the management team. So it's the team and the management team of who's going to take it forward can, as we know, be instrumental in any product or any new business. It can make a big difference, and that goes from whether it be equity investment or if you are looking for debt or anything as you're growing or going through a growth stage. It really is a lot to do with how the management team are structured and what it is you're looking for and how you take it forward. I think as well, just tell as many people as you can about what you're doing. That always helps. It seems to get you connected to the right people along the way.
Adam, would you agree with those sorts of tips?
Yeah, absolutely. And just another point to add, I think covering off why did we grow so much last year, and with this point as well, understanding your business. Understanding what levers you can use and pull to drive sales, to keep the cash coming in, maintain profitability. Obviously, one of our goals for the year as well was to do that. But it's understanding your business as well, especially if you're having those conversations with external people to come in and help. You've got to know what you're doing and what your business looks like on the inside as well.
Ben, it's worth just adding, I think Paul asked the question, but he has put debt, not equity. And I did focus a bit more on equity investment there. But looking at debt, I think it's exactly the same. I think the only thing I would say is that it's making sure you've got that, not just the understanding the business, but knowing the financials inside and out and the forecasts that match that as well. Be realistic about what those forecasts look like as well, if you're going down the debt route a little bit more.
So we'll do two final sort of questions as we come into this final 5 minutes of the session. Michael's asked, do the panel believe the levelling up agenda will actually happen, or is the southeast bias in the UK so entrenched that actually it's all just a bit of hopeful talk?
So I start. Well, I think something that has given me optimism that it will happen is that there's something in the public sector called the Green Book. It's the way of assessing projects to determine where the best value for money is and what gets investment, basically. And historically, it would be said that the Green Book analysis has been skewed towards projects in the southeast delivering a higher value for money and therefore attracting more investment. And I was on a call yesterday discussing how that has been amended. So from a baseline government policy perspective, I think some of the things that previously have meant the southeast have scored higher, if you like, in getting investment are changing. I also think that the government's been quite clear on what its 3 focus areas are. So it has kept it quite focused on those, and one of those is levelling up. And I just come back to the inequality that has been absolutely demonstrated through the pandemic cannot be hidden, and therefore the need for levelling up. Now is the time. The evidence is there. It isn't narrative. The evidence from the pandemic is there.
Fantastic. And I guess then brings us to the final question. We've all been talking optimistically about the future, and economic recovery is obviously going to be paramount over the next 12 months. Where are you seeing growth drivers and opportunities within perhaps your business, Adam and Carl, and also within the wider Northern Powerhouse in terms of sectors to the others? So if I start with Carl.
For us, the opportunities are, I'll go a step back, actually. Listening to our clients fundamentally is the thing that we need to do. We need to sort of know what their objectives are so that we can be by their side to roll that out. And really that's key, certainly in our industry, because the reset button's being pressed, and people will want to do things differently. So it's like it's a complete new market out there, and what that's going to look like is anyone's guess. But I think the opportunities certainly within our arena are a hybrid between physical space and virtual space, and that communication between clients and their audience is going to be a huge push for us. And that's certainly where we've gone here, both physically within offices and office design and build, but also communicating to a worldwide audience from, let's say, local companies to blue chip companies. How are they going to achieve that in the new world? And I think the expansion of being able to communicate and the acceptance from people not to fly off to Amsterdam for a half-an-hour meeting and communicate in a different way, that's going to be a real big push for our clients, and that's where we'll come in and hopefully help them do it.
Fantastic. Adam, to you.
Yeah, I think for us, slightly different one. I think what we've seen over the last 6 months is from a talent perspective and supporting job creation is people wanting to reskill because they've been forced out of work because of COVID. We've seen a huge amount of people wanting to get into tech, and hopefully we see an opportunity of being able to support those people with a move and a change in their career paths from maybe working within hospitality or events or other sectors that have been really hit hard and can see themselves really forming a pathway now into becoming a developer or a QA or something like that. And we see a huge opportunity as a business to be able to support those people. We have a lot of people joining us in a junior capacity that we take in on a very, very sort of controlled 12 months sort of learn with us to become developers effectively.
It's a really interesting opportunity, actually, that one, and quite a different approach there to Carl. So to you, Laura.
I'll probably pick up on one of the points that Sarah was making around the strength of our management teams. I think one of the things that I've been just hugely impressed by over the last year is the resilience of our businesses, of many of our businesses, and just how well management teams have coped during the pandemic. And I think that shows to me that we've got a great basis for growth now. We have some fantastic businesses that have proven that they can weather the storm. So I'm kind of hugely optimistic about what the next 12 months can bring when we support their growth as they come out of this pandemic.
Fantastic. And to you, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I think with volatility comes opportunity, and I think we probably are looking at quite a bounce back in certain sectors. I guess the opportunity for NPIF and our funds there is really to help where, you know, there's always a risk, I think, of over trading as you're coming out, and I think there's an opportunity for our funds to be really helpful there. We're looking at an economy that has borrowed a lot of money. That suggests that both that there's more of an openness now to borrow that money, but also that there's possibly a nervousness in extending that position more. But actually, we need to fund the growth. So that's what NPIF is there for. I did notice there was a question about why we do loan funds as well as equity. Just very quickly to say that, you know, our loan funds are operating where banks don't usually operate, and I think where banks don't usually operate is going to be another probably big area for NPIF going forwards.
And then, yeah, lastly to you, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody answered my thoughts as well, but I'd agree with Ken. I mean, there's a cycle, isn't there? And we've talked a bit about recruitment and about investment into companies, but which comes first? And the investment comes first, and there's a lot of capital ready to be invested or to be borrowed. It's all available, and I think that comes first, which means the support for that growth, it happens over the next 12 months, and then recruit, which will then get us to a different position as far as the regions are concerned. But I think going back to Ken's earlier point as well, you know, it's that it is about the regions. It's not just, we've talked a lot about Leeds and Manchester, but you've got the whole of North Yorkshire, Tees Valley, Humber, and up into the Northwest and Cumbria as well, that we're talking about as the Northern Powerhouse. And I think that there is also about bringing those regions in and supporting them just as much as what Leeds and Manchester have got, which I think is another thing, is touching out towards into those regions where there's some fantastic businesses that, you know, we see and hear and can touch, but it's actually shouting out about those just as much as many of the others as well, I think.
No, fantastic, and thank you very much to the panel for sharing your thoughts. I think you'll all agree that over the last 45 minutes, it's been an optimistic look, and fantastic to see how Northern Grit has properly played its part over the last 12 months for the businesses, but also how ingenuity and adaptability is clearly going to fuel our growth moving forward, not just of our cities, as Sarah said, but of all the towns that make up the Northern Powerhouse. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. There will be another Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund webinar coming in March, and there will be a write-up of this available on thebusinessdesk.com in the coming days. Thank you very much again to all our panelists, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.